This One's Wife. Found out. What say you, Meghan? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. In a separate video, I explained how, following the assassination of Charlie Kirk, you could now await the arrival of the narcissists and also observe the behaviour of other narcissists. Essentially, I was explaining how certain narcissists would come forth to leverage the assassination of Charlie Kirk for the pursuit of the prime aims, i.e., they would use his death for their own purposes. And, lo and behold, examples appeared such as Andrew Tate and Donald Trump. I also made the point that it was interesting to watch other narcissists that had spoken out about the deaths of other people who would remain silent about Charlie Kirk's assassination because, first of all, they have no emotional empathy for Charlie Kirk, but moreover, it does not serve their purposes to speak out about his death, and instead, they remain silent. They speak out about other causes because that fits with the image that they project, but seeing to support a white, male, Christian conservative doesn't fit with the image that they project, and therefore they remain silent. A notable example in that respect was in relation to Taylor Swift not saying anything about it, whereas hitherto she has been rather outspoken about other tragedies. Similarly, This One's Wife. You've noticed before that she's a particular tragedy tourist, turning up at Uvalde, turning up at the LA wildfires, but in relation to Kirk, silence. We have another instance in relation to observing the response of a narcissist in relation to certain behaviours, demonstrating that the moral compass, which is an empathic trait, of This One's Wife is not just wonky, it's non-existent. As reported by Kirsten Fleming in the New York Post, if an exalted girl boss, who is best friends with This One's Wife and Lauren Sanchez, admits dropping racial and gay slurs in years past, does it make a sound? It would seem not. And the silence from the social justice warriors, cancellers, and even fellow media is as deafening as it is hypocritical. This is something that we are seeing increasingly as the case, that there are those individuals, those social justice warriors, many of whom who are narcissists, who go jumping onto a bandwagon to decry certain behaviours, and then, when either they or somebody that they are close to is found to engage in the very behaviours that they decry in other people, there is a deafening silence. On Friday night, an investigation into the behaviour of billionaire Bumble founder Whitney Wolfe Herd, who began her career at Tinder before suing the dating app and its parent company in 2014 for sexual harassment, was published by the Daily Mail. The parties settled out of court. Former Tinder colleagues said Wolfe Herd overstated her influence, grandiosity, embellishment, and role at the tech company, was violent towards her ex-boyfriend, Tinder co-founder Justin Mateen, rudimentary manipulation, absence of emotional empathy, and treated fellow female employees terribly, manipulations, absence of emotional empathy, sense of entitlement. Wolfe Herd denied the allegations. Denial, the first line of the twin lines of the narcissistic defence. In the piece, Wolfe Herd admitted to using the N-word and other slurs. But she blamed it on her colleagues, saying she was simply keeping up with the fellas in the male-centric tech company. Accordingly, blame-shifting, though not very good blame-shifting, a supposedly empowered, thrusting, dynamic CEO and founder turns around and states, "Oh, the reason I was using the N-word and other slurs was because I wanted to keep up with the tech bros." Right. The story paints a murkier picture of the founder's fairy tale of female empowerment, which was made into a fawning film, Swiped, that debuted on Hulu last week. Wolfe Herd, who said she had nothing to do with the film, is played by Lily James. Accordingly, we have Wolfe Herd, whose own behaviours demonstrate the narcissist that she is, engaging in poor behaviour, bullying, harassment of individuals, allegations of physical violence against an intimate partner, and the admission that she had utilised racial and other slurs. Not a particularly nice person. And of course, this is the person that this one's wife cozied up to in relation to her shitty podcast. And furthermore, that is engaging in behaviours that social justice warrior and queen of the empaths, open bracket, false empaths, close bracket, maintains that it's behaviour that she wouldn't stand for. After all, hasn't this one's wife built her entire identity on fighting against racism, to speak out against dangerous language of this nature? Remember, the Robert F. Kennedy Foundation gave her and the Prince of Pink Pancakes the Nipple of Grope Award for championing racial justice. This one's wife, as the New York Post reports, ran to Oprah in 2021 to cry about the racism she allegedly endured at the hands of the royal family. She accused an unnamed member of having concerns and conversations about how dark Archie's skin might be. She, and Has No Balls, said racism was a large part of their reason for fleeing the United Kingdom, and he blathered on about unconscious bias. So, what has this one's wife got to say about the unpleasant behaviour of Wolf Herd? Presumably, this one's wife is ready to condemn her. After all, she is the social justice warrior who fights racism, that she is there to condemn all instances of racially prejudiced behaviour because, hey, doesn't she know better than anybody else what it's like to be on the receiving end, according to her varying recollections? Isn't she there ready to speak out and condemn these behaviours? Isn't she going to say, Wolf Herd, you're an awful human being and I have nothing more to do with you. I condemn your admitted activity. Well, let's listen for what this one's wife has to say. Yes, it's just crickets from this one's wife. Complete silence. Why might that be? Back in April, she only had effusive praise for her pal, who was inaugural guest on her shitty podcast Confessions of a Female Founder. The two fawned over each other, and this one's wife described her as the kind of friend who just always seemed to know the exact right thing to say when I need perspective. What's that? A flurry of racial and other slurs? On that episode, Wolf Herd said she was initially driven to create a female-forward platform, which would eventually become bumbled to encourage kindness among women. Ah, is that kindness using slurs? It is all so fake. The New York Post explains, for over a decade we've been living through a witch hunt where media and internet executioners have acted like raccoons, scraping through people's garbage looking for any offensive posts or actions. And lots of folks were axed because of such words. In 2013, Paula Deen was dropped from the Food Network after admitting she used the N-word years prior. Meanwhile, Chris Harrison left The Bachelor after 20 years because he was blasted for defending contestant Rachel Kirkconnell, who had attended an antebellum-themed college party in 2018. Megyn Kelly was exiled from NBC and forced to apologise for asking when wearing blackface on Halloween became so taboo. Shane Gillis was fired by Saturday Night Live in 2019 after a journalist revealed that he used Asian slurs in a podcast. But it would appear that racial slurs and offensive words, which were once a 5-alarm fire that landed celebrities and nobodies in pits of shame, are no longer worth mentioning. After all, this one's wife transitioned from fighting racism to more important callings, spreading joy, making jam, and being a support beam of the female empowerment complex while making money. And because calling Wolf Herd out would only upset her Monty Shitshow ecosystem, unlike attacking the royals, which led to a rollout of lucrative opportunities in podcasting and streaming. The fact is that this one's wife isn't going to say anything because she's a hypocrite. This one's wife isn't going to say anything because she doesn't give a rat's ass about the issue of race, except when it serves a purpose for her. This one's wife isn't going to say anything because to do so would be to cause a problem in relation to her relationship with Wolf Herd, and she cares more about that relationship and the opportunities and money that might come with it than actually standing up for her principles, because this one's wife's only principles are the prime aims. Once again, she's been outed as the massive hypocrite that she is. That she involves herself with Wolf Herd, who is then revealed to have behaved in a despicable way across a variety of different fronts, including those that this one's wife speaks out against. Her absence of response to it demonstrates she doesn't care, that she is a hypocrite, and that she only utilises things such as racism for her own purposes. Once again, this one's wife is exposed as Wolf Herd has been exposed, but she won't do anything in relation to the exposure of Wolf Herd because she only cares about what matters to her. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.